Hey guys, I have decided to go ahead and release the Girl Scout murders that I have investigated here for quite a while, um, along with a lot of help. Um, I've got a lot of my people have helped me, a lot of other investigators behind the scene people have helped me. It's been a long one. I mean, there's a lot of things in this, and I think that even to give more clarity and to give more of a closing, in my opinion, not that we can ever have a complete closing because there's not enough evidence. They agreed with the family, federal, state, local, that they could never close this case based on the evidence. You'll see why as we go into it. Part 3, I think, will have to be done in order to visit the spiritual aspect, uh, Indian beliefs, uh, spiritual shapeshifting and things. We're going to dive in, and bear with me, there's a lot of information here that I'm going to share with you guys. After this video, if you all feel that you would like me to do a live so that you can ask me questions, so that you can ask questions, we'll do a poll to see if that's what y'all want. The poll will be placed on the YouTube community page. That's where you'll be able to find it, and you'll be able to vote there. Like I said, I'd like to give a big thanks to the people behind the scenes that have helped me a lot with this and that are still helping me. I plan on visiting this location as soon as I can get things worked out, but of course I want to speak with the landowner to have permission to be able to do that. So y'all know that back in June 12th, 1977, Gene Leroy Hart was a suspect in the Oklahoma City, I don't know where I even came up with that. He was a suspect in the Locust Grove killings that took place at the camp. I'm gonna get it something started here so we don't mess up too much. Okay. The night that all this happened, the moon was a waning crescent moon. The victims were Lori Farmer, Denise Milner, and Michelle Goose. The result of the events that night resulted in the death of the 3 young ladies. The cryptid that was possibly suspected in this case was a shapeshifter or skinwalker believed to have been Gene Leroy Hart. Despite rumors that have circulated on the internet and everywhere, I investigated deeply, and that's what they are, is rumors. The case has never been officially solved and is open to this day. There was a note found 2 months prior in a donut box before the girls ever arrived that said, "We are on a mission to kill 3 girls." The number 3 I looked at, the number 3 signifies harmony, wisdom, and understanding. It is the divine and used in many rituals. Maybe they were working on another ritual, and maybe they were planning on sacrificing these girls. In the Cherokee beliefs, the number 3 comes up a lot in rituals. It comes up a lot whenever they do sacrifices. In June of that year, outside of Tulsa nightclub, Hart abducted 2 young pregnant women from the parking lot and drove them to Mays County. There he brutally raped and sodomized the 2 women. It is important to note that the 2 women wore eyeglasses. Both of the victims were forced to ride in the trunk at several points during the kidnapping, but he would take one or both of them into the car with him throughout the trip while they were driving down the highway. Hart would try on their glasses to see if he could see through them. There's been speculation that people believe that he needed eyeglasses to be able to see. And I'm sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second. Let me kill this. They believe he needed eyeglasses to be able to see, and I think that's possible. But I also wonder if, in his beliefs, if he believed by wearing their glasses, he was able to see into their thoughts or to see things as they seen them, kind of an out-of-body astral projection sense, something that he would believe in. When Hart was caught, he confessed to kidnapping, raping, and sodomizing the 2 pregnant women, and was sentenced to 3 10-year prison terms to be served concurrently because of this. Hart was paroled after 28 months. Because he was on parole for the previous kidnapping and rape charges, the court served Hart with roughly 350 years of prison time. After returning to the Mays County Jail for the hearing at the Mays County Court, Hart escaped but was quickly caught by police. Authorities returned him to the Mays County Jail, where he did escape again. His second escape occurred in 1973, and he would remain on the run until 1978. I thought that was interesting. Lori Lee Farmer, Michelle Heather Goose, and Doris Denise Milner were killed in 1977. It was discovered that Gene Leroy Hart had been under the counsel of a Native American medicine man during this time of hiding. Hart actually earned himself a nickname, the Sandman, for his alleged skills in shapeshifting. A shapeshifter is one who has the ability to change their physical appearance at will, and so it was believed Hart was able to pull off these crimes and stay hidden from authorities because he possessed this evil black magic. Now, I done some digging, and I found that the medicine man that he was supposed to be under, by the name of a Sam Pigeon, was the name of the medicine man. Did Hart make a deal with the medicine man? That's one of the things I've wondered. That he would do something for him. What was the deal? Was it, would Sam Pigeon make him a shapeshifter and he would guard the lands? And by guarding the lands and stuff, he'd be able to hide from the law by having this special hidden ability that the Cherokees believed that this magic should not be taught. But first we have to ask a question. Is shapeshifting even possible? Well, I went back and I looked into biblical times, and God, we could have went way down the rabbit hole on that, and it would have took 5 or more of these. But shapeshifting is found in every religion. Even in Mark 16:12, they say Jesus shapeshifted. If Jesus done it, the enemy does everything that Jesus does, but in the opposite, he perverts his word, perverts his ways. So I would say the enemy could give his people the possible ability to be able to do that. I'm not going to say that you can. I'm not going to say that you can't. I'm going to leave it as plausible. Before Hart was captured, detectives reported seeing a black dog in the woods that would frequently follow them places, and then mysteriously it would disappear. Many people believe Hart was the dog. Several people who have visited the property in recent years still report seeing the mysterious dog roaming the property. And yes, the dog is black. I have a photograph of the dog that was taken by the OSBI agents. I will place that in here for you all to be able to look at. A matter of fact, I'm just going to place it at the end of this video, guys. All the photos are going to be at the end of this video, so you will be able to look at them in sequence. On that jury evening, 8-year-old Lori Lee Farmer, 9-year-old Michelle Heather Goose, and 10-year-old Doris Denise Milner returned to the cabin in the Kiowa unit. Their tent was number 8. It was the last in the semicircle and the furthest away from the counselor's tent, over 80 yards away. The tents, though made to look like cabins, were wooden platforms with 4 cots, no lights, and large flaps serving as the door. I also have pictures of those that will be at the end of this video. Pretty scary looking place, really, if you ask me. A dim light was moving through the woods toward the Kiowa unit. Anybody walking through the camp, unless you had a good flashlight, it would be pretty much pitch black, Wilson said. From the darkness behind the tents, 1 and 2, Wilhite heard a low guttural sound or moaning coming from the woods. Though they assumed it was an animal, when Wilhite went to investigate and shone her flashlight in the direction of the noise, the sound would stop and she would start looking for the noise out into the woods. I've had that happen to me a lot of times. Whenever I go out investigating, you start hearing these creatures, you start moving toward them, they'll stop. You start moving out, it's like they progress, they start following you, they start making noises like trying to lure you back. Not sure why they do that, but I have had that happen to me a lot, and that kind of stuck out to me. As I find that factual because it's happened to me before. She turned around and started going back to her tent. As soon as she did that, the light not being shined in the direction anymore, the sound started back up, Wilson said. So she turned around a second time and started walking back at the direction as she shined the flashlight in the direction again. The sound stopped again, Wilson said. Now this sound, I don't know if y'all have seen it, was so terrifying to her that whenever she recounts the sound, you can tell that she has PTSD. This is a sound that she's never heard. And you have to picture yourself on a dark, rainy, gloomy, damp night with cloud cover where it's just totally dark. You're in the middle of the woods and you hear a noise that you've never heard. That's scary. I've had that happen. So I understand why she is having trouble with this, because that is a very, very scary thing, especially if it's not human. Plausible. Wilhite would say later that when she was back in her tent trying to fall asleep, she could still hear that sound. Whatever this thing was, it was circling inside the tent and around the tent. Definitely not normal to be making these kind of noises. Was Gene in one of the forms he had become? Was he in a different form? Is that why they were hearing the noises? Was he not completely Gene at that time? Was he demon possessed and made those noises from the evil force that was residing in him while he was hunting the children? Or was he just mental and believed that he was this creature? There's a mental illness out there called clinical lycanthropy. Also, the reason that the shapeshifting may make sense is because Gene had a friend they killed. Now, Gene had a friend, and his friend did kill his 3-month-old baby later after this. The Cherokee believe in order to be a shapeshifter, you must spill blood. The younger the person that you kill, the stronger your abilities will be. The footprint found in the tent was a 9.5-inch shoe. Gene wore an 11-inch, so that kind of ruled him out on the kind of that part. I thought, you know, him having 11 and the 9.5 being found, I had a theory. Maybe because he had a 16-year-old friend, he had that friend with him that night. I believe there was more than one there that night. I do believe that. And maybe this young one that he had there with him was possibly seeking to be a shapeshifter or to perform a ritual or a sacrifice. And if you think about it, 3 girls, 3 virgin girls that are innocent and of young age, needing the young blood, they would fit a sacrifice. Having the fires up in the cave that matched the ritual for Indian beliefs, that really stuck to me, especially when I thought about the 3 virgin girls being that young and everything, needing young blood, and then you have the ritual fires in the cave. Gene had just, I think, either become or believed that he had become this creature. Around the same time, a camper in tent 7 saw a light approaching the tent. Suddenly, the light flooded the tent and a male figure stood an inch away. Just as quickly as he appeared, he disappeared in the darkness, closing the flap behind him. They later said they interviewed the girls in Camp 7 and they could not make for sure that it was a male. Actually, one of the counselors admitted going to that tent and checking on them. So probably was not him. It was probably one of the camp counselors checking on them. They were just frightened. All the girls seemed to be frightened that night. One camper said they heard a scream in the night, and another camper said they heard someone crying for their mama. Gene probably had the little girl at that time. It's hard to think, but in all probability, it was probably a girl that he had. The next morning, the sun rose on another day at Camp Scott. Will Height woke early at around 6 a.m. to get a shower before the other campers woke up. As she headed out of her tent, she spotted what appeared to be sleeping bags a little ways from the tent. When she approached, she realized that there were sleeping bags sprawled across the ground. 2 of the sleeping bags were zipped closed, 1 was open. Inside was Doris Milner's body. Lori Farmer and Michelle Goose were in the other sleeping bags. It made me think when I was looking into this, and I was wondering, why were there 4 fires in the cave that represented a ritual fire, but you only had 3 girls that night that were killed? If this was a sacrificial fire, and they done it as a sacrifice or as a ritual, there would be as many fires as there would be animals or humans or whatever they planned on sacrificing. Then it occurred to me, there was supposed to be 4 in that tent that night, but Kristen was sick and was unable to go. So that kind of started making sense to me when I looked at it like that, as 4 fires, 3 girls. Well, there was supposed to have been 4. It probably, her being sick, I'm pretty sure probably saved her life that night. I don't think any of them were prepared for seeing an 8, 9, and 10-year-old girl in that kind of condition. I think it all hit them pretty hard, said Wilson from the OSBI investigator. Federal, state, local police were all having trouble with what they were seeing. The bodies were in bad shape. The victims were bludgeoned to death to the point some of the officers, 22 overall over a period of time, quit over that. The Mays County Sheriff Glenn Pete Weaver was assigned to the case. Weaver has served from 1961 to 1971, then was reelected in 73 and held the position until 1981. Upon arrival, investigators were faced with a gruesome scene. The bodies of the 3 little girls had been found roughly 150 yards from their tent on the side of a trail, along with their sleeping bags. The trail ran along the side of the Kiowa unit, which was positioned in a semicircle tucked in and furthest left apart Camp Scott. Nearest the trail was the counselor's tent, or tent number 1. Then the campers' tents proceeded in a semicircle away from the counselors, ending with tent number 8, the victim's tent, which was over 80 yards from the counselor's tent. The view was also obstructed by the showers, so you could not see tent number 8 from the counselor's tent because of the showers. And that also would give, a pretty good opportunity to be able to move in and no one to be able to see you. Now, the trail that passed the Kiowa unit also led to the back gate of the camp. Though the main gate and the back gate of the camp were locked, the gate itself was not a challenging obstacle. Around 11 p.m., the front gate was locked, but was left unguarded during the night, as well as the side gate near the Kiowa unit. Plus, there was no fence around the perimeter of the camp, so you have not a very well secured camp. I always say, if you're camping, guys, you need to have a perimeter, a safe perimeter. You need to have traps. You need to have noisemakers. They make 22 trip traps you can buy. They make them now. It's got chem lights. Some shoot flares. Secure your perimeter, guys. They should have known this. They were a Girl Scout camp, for God's sake. They should have known. They should have had a secure perimeter. You had a bunch of little girls out there. Along with horrific scenes, several pieces of evidence were found by detectives in the hours following their arrival at Camp Scott. Duct tape had been used on the little girls, and near the bodies a roll of duct tape had been found. Also near the bodies were rope and a pair of women's eyeglasses and glass case and a red flashlight. On June 16th, the medical examiner would announce that the 3 girls had not been raped, though they were sexually molested. Even if Gene Leroy Hart had shapeshifted, if that is possible, he still had a part of him there that fit the MO. It is still taking the eyeglasses, and that's what brings me right back to knowing that he's there. Even the Indians that I spoke with said that even though you do this transformation or you astral project, part of your mind has to stay there or you lose yourself completely. So his MO stayed the same. If he was in fact shapeshifting this night and attacked the girls, as part of his human form was still there. His human form had to still be with whatever he was. The flashlight itself had been manipulated in more than one ways. First, the tape had been placed over the lens to dull the light. When turned on, just one small beam of light escaped the flashlight. Additionally, the newspaper had been jammed inside the flashlight to keep the batteries from rattling against the plastic exterior. The paper found was April 17, 1977 edition of the Tulsa World, pages 5 through 12, section C, if you guys are interested. Now, I had a theory on this. Investigators said that there was not enough light that he could see to escape. The flashlight would not give him enough light to be able to walk out there with the debris, the darkness, and everything. It was a very damp and overcast night. There had been some storms in the area. This light would not have proven to have had adequate light to be able to escape, as it was a very low light. Could the small light be because of this? And this is my theory, guys, that I came up with. The moon, you know me and the moon. The moon phase on that night was a waning crescent phase, stormy, small moon, and damp. So you had an overcast, guys. And in the overcast, there would have been no light from the moon shining down. There would have been very low light, probably none, very minimal. But if you're able to transform into this beast, into this dog, this black dog, and you are able to have these bars in your eyes, as some animals do, that take low light, and you're able to see really well in low light, is why I believe that these creatures hunt not on the full moon, because we can see really good too, but on the low light parts of the moon, where it gives them a very big advantage. Was he maybe did not need as much light to move around the camp as what we would? If it is possible and plausible that he had transformed into this creature, all he would need would be very low light to make the bars in his eyes give him the ability to be able to see way better than any human out there that night could have. He was a predator hunting in an environment where he had every sense, hearing, seeing, smelling, at his advantage, if it's possible. Officers entered tent number 8, where another grisly scene waited inside. Blood was found on the tent flap. Parts of the floor and mattresses, and parts of the tent itself were broken. A shoe print was found in the blood on the floor. One of only places the authorities could not find blood was on the cot on the right side of the tent. Investigators also mentioned that the area crime scene had not been secured, and the print could have been a staff member or law enforcement. So they were saying that the footprint may not have been anybody. It could have been law enforcement or somebody else, because it was a poorly secured crime scene. The tent was broke. Was this something big and strong, or was it from a struggle and no one heard it? The big, huge pole of the tent, they said, was snapped. We believe Lori and Michelle were probably most likely killed in the tent, and that Denise was either carried or made to walk to the location where the bodies were found. Why would he not kill all three in the tent? The girls, I believe, have been scared since the day they arrived. Denise Milner wrote a letter to her mom wanting to come home. Did the girls see something in the woods that had them afraid? They said that all the girls were nervous at night, and everyone was wanting to call home or write letters to home. Were the girls seeing things in the woods? I mean, is there things the counselors aren't even telling us that was going on before all this even happened? Because it seems to me there was something there that had all these girls upset. The girls were upset. They're wanting to come home. They're wanting to do it. Even one of the girls' sisters that was at home that did not even make the trip told her mom they're going to all die. After searching the caves, investigators found grocery items, newspapers from the same edition of the Tulsa World, 2 photographs, and duct tape matching the kind found on the girls' bodies. I find it very interesting that we speculate on a lot of these creatures to live underground and in caves. And then that's where we find all of his stuff, is in a cave. That's another thing that goes down that rabbit hole. I mean, we speculate them to live in caves and underground, and that evidently is where he felt safe being, and that's where he stayed. Also, I found this interesting. He had broken into a house and only took food. Him breaking in and only taking food and stuff, that happened to my granny's a lot. See, that was another thing that really stuck out to me, is this creature at my granny's would break in, but he would never take things, just food, like a little bit of bologna, a little bit of bread, just enough to get by. And that really stuck out to me, if in fact it's possible. It was evident to authorities that someone had been hiding out inside the darkness of the caves. Further proof was a note written on the cave wall that said, "The killer was here. Bye-bye, fools." I'll also place those photos at the end of this video. The photographs found in the cave may have been developed by a man while he served in the Granite Reformatory. Deputy Alan Little. This is really what hurt the case, guys. They found this picture in this cave, and they said it's got to be Gene Leroy Hart. That's his picture. He's what he done in prison. But listen to this. It's going to blow your mind. Deputy Alan Little told OSBI undercover agent Pratt that the exact photo was on the sheriff's desk 3 years earlier than been found in the cave. How's that photograph in the sheriff's desk 3 years earlier, if they're saying that Gene Leroy Hart planted it? Did police plant the evidence because Hart had been on the run from them and escaped so many times they just wanted to catch him and get back at him? That was one of my theories that I wrote down. That man, Gene Leroy Hart, did for sure at that point become a prime suspect when they found all that. That points everybody at him. I'm not saying he's innocent by far. A fellow inmate of Hart's would later tell authorities that Hart had poor eyesight and needed glasses. However, instead of going to see an eye doctor, Hart developed a habit of stealing glasses. There's your MO right there. It didn't matter if they were men's or women's glasses. Didn't matter whether they were prescription glasses or not. He just had a thing for sunglasses, for stealing glasses everywhere he went. Marty Wilson, an OSBI agent, said. Now, throughout the search for Hart, authorities would contradict each other several times. In one instance, Weaver told the media the murder weapon had been found. When Wise, an OSBI agent, spoke to the press later, they said they had no idea what Weaver had been talking about. An ominous threat seemed to follow the case, as well as 3 tracking dogs were brought in by investigators to assist in the search. A local medicine man placed a curse on the tracking dogs and stated that they would die. Though it may be pure happenance, the prediction was relatively accurate. One dog died from exhaustion and the other dog ran out into traffic and died. Only one dog survived. The manhunt would take them approximately 10 months. When Hart was apprehended on April 6, 1978, authorities found him hiding out in a residence in the Cookson Hills. With some help from an informant, a team of OSBI agents arrested Hart at the residence located about 45 miles from the camp. Jailers, this is weird, guys. This is another thing down the rabbit hole. Jailers told that Hart would turn into an animal in his cell at will. These are jailers saying that he was doing this, okay? One jailer said that Hart would taunt him and say that he could escape and squeeze through the bars. And he did escape twice from that jail. One time he done it with a hacksaw, but the second time that he was taunting the jailer saying, "I can transform, I can escape, I'm a shapeshifter," he did escape, and they still to this day will not release the details on how he done it. 45 miles away from Camp Scott. Was that too far for him to be and murder the girls? I don't know. What do you think? Or maybe not, for depending if he was able to shapeshift. Could he cover 45 miles easier if he was shapeshifter? If it was possible, if it was plausible? Was this creature, this monster, able to cover that much ground? Scary to think about, I'm telling you. The trial also exposed previous threats at the camp leading up to the summer session, including the slashed tents that flap, various burglaries, and a note threatening incoming campers. So no murder weapon, but there was a slash in the tent that they said came from a sharp object. This is things that I came up with that I found, guys. Is this why Weaver said there was a weapon? Because the kids were so slashed up it looked like a weapon was used on them? And the OSBI says there was no weapons. At the end of March 1979, after a brief deliberation from the jury, Hart was acquitted for the murders of Lori Farmer, Denise Milner, and Michelle Goose. Hart was unanimously found innocent by all jurors. Some of the tribe said that he was found not guilty because the jurors knew they had made a deal with them. That the deal was he was a shapeshifter that protected them and their lands, and if they were to go against him, he would come back and he would devour them and their families, because they had seen the power he had whenever he had become the Sandman. Though Hart promptly returned to the state penitentiary in McAlester, Oklahoma to serve the remainder of his 305-year sentence. After just a few months in prison, Hart died of a heart attack while serving time in prison, taking his secrets to the grave. A lot of people say if he's a shapeshifter when he was outside working out, why didn't he just turn into that bird and fly away? Shaman said that they was going to pray in church, and this is a shaman up around that area that was trying to help them find Hart. He said that the magic that he was using was such a forbidden magic that they needed the power of Jesus Christ to be able to stop him. He said they would go to a church, they would pray to Jesus Christ, and if he was this creature, that whenever they done this, he would die. Whenever they went and done this, he fell dead at the prison of a heart attack. And they also said that he was as healthy as a horse. Whenever he was tracked down, they had another shaman. They didn't mention this in the reports, and I found it was in one of the buried reports that they had buried. They actually used a shaman from the tribe, the Cherokee tribe up around Locust Grove, to be able to find Hart. And they said whenever they found Hart, he walked up to Hart and started tapping him on the leg and rubbing some kind of dust off of him. And they asked him, they said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm getting my magic back." It's theorized that the reason he did not fly out of the prison as a shapeshifter whenever he was caught is because the way it looks, this Mr. Pigeon guy that transformed him and gave him this magic, whenever they went to find him, he helped find him, took his magic back, which took his ability to shapeshift away. The shaman took it, so when he went to prison he was unable to use it. And then evidently this supposedly and allegedly the shaman done the prayer and led to the demise of Gene Leroy Hart. The evidence obtained by the OSBI has never excluded Hart into the day. The OSBI says that in addition to not being able to exclude Hart, the evidence does not point to anyone in Pacific. The DNA was just not conclusive. If he was shapeshifting, if it was plausible, would that cause the DNA to be able to be unread? Would there be enough abnormalities there for the DNA not to make sense? If he could do that, I would say yeah, if it's possible. Did the shaman take his power away from him the day we caught him? Is that why he died in prison? Did he break a deal with the shaman? Is that why the shaman hunted him down and took his magic? Took the demon from him? I don't know. I plan on visiting this site, guys, if I'm able to. I think I'm going to do a part 3 and dive a little further down into the rabbit hole, the spiritual aspect of this case, and the ability to be able to shapeshift, and the rituals, and if that power truly exists, and the shaman, did he take that power back, and try to find out more. A lot of weird stuff, guys, I gave you today. A lot of information to think about, a lot of things to speculate on. I try not to speculate as an investigator. I just try to follow the facts. But it's hard not to speculate in a case like this. I wish they would have had better security, and I wish they would have investigated noises better. I wish there would have been more adults sporadically spread out on the camp. They said there was 40 adults. Why were they not spread out around the camp to protect these children? I don't know. It's not a very safe perimeter. There should have been a hard perimeter. It should have been a hard perimeter. These girls were left at, well, they were left to the coyotes, to the wolves. Can't wait to hear what you guys think about this. I will be working on a third one. We've already started. I have a lot of help on it going right now. It's going to be a while before I release it. But this one really opened me up to a lot of things, made me really think about a lot of things. And I know I took you a different way than a lot of these investigations go, but I took you all outside of the box because I think this case honestly can go outside of the box very easily. But I look forward to your all's comments, and if y'all want to see, like I said, we can do a live on this, and we can do questions, answers, and share opinions and stuff, and maybe y'all can even help me on the part 3 with information versus a video. My email is it's on the logo at the first. Feel free to contact me, send me links. Any help is much appreciated, and it will give the people that are helping me a break too as far as having to research. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate all the donations that you all give us for this channel. That's what gets us out there, allows us to do this, to travel and to get information. Without the donations, we wouldn't be able to do this, guys. Again, y'all's the best on the web. Until next time, keep your head on a swivel.